it's Stephanie Cantu, and this is Writing with Your Realtor. And today I'm joined by Mr.
CJ Frost. I'm with Neighborhood Loans.
Thank you so much for joining us today, CJ. And we are going to ask you a few questions that I hope will help those home buyers out there. And let's get going. Okay, first question. With first-time home buyer assistance, and there's the down payment assistance programs. Is that always the best thing to do, and does that cover all my closing costs?
It's a great question. Is it always the best thing to do? I would say no. It's not always the best thing to do. Now, everybody's different. Every client's going to be different. That's why it's always important to sit down with a lender, preferably, via Zoom, face-to-face, whatever it is, maybe a long phone call, and go over all of your options, because you'd be surprised all the options that are out there for first-time home buyers, just even beyond down payment assistance. Is it always the best option? Like I said, no, but it can be very helpful for a lot of first-time home buyers. I've used it quite a bit in the past, and I will continue to use it quite a bit in the future. It just kind of helps bridge that gap for people who maybe have the income and have the credit, but we're not quite there with having a full down payment or having a full down payment plus closing costs. It can help bridge that kind of final gap, help people become first-time home buyers.
Great. The second part of the question was, would that cover all the closing costs?
So no, it doesn't typically cover all the closing costs. It will cover all of your down payment. Typically, down payment assistance comes in different amounts. So you can get 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. Obviously, all of those will have varying interest rates. But yes, so we can get it to cover all your, down payment, maybe even a little bit of your closing costs. But no, typically it's going to be hard to get it to cover the entire transaction. That's typically where we'll have to rely on the realtor to maybe get some seller concessions if we do want to try to get all the, cash to close or upfront costs, paid.
Okay, right, exactly. And that's why it's so important to meet with your lender and go over that information before you actually start shopping, so you know what you're going to be bringing to the table with, and everybody can help you make it happen.
Yeah.
So, okay, great. Now we're going to move to the question number 2. That would be interest rates. So that's a big topic right now, interest rates being the way they are, and people, may be a little hesitant nowadays. Should I wait for the interest rates to go down? How does interest rates even affect how much house I can buy?
Yeah. So it's a very big topic of discussion. Interest rates, should I buy now? Should I wait? Does it help me afford more? Interest rates, obviously the lower they are, the lower your principal and interest payment's going to be. However, there are a lot of people asking the same questions as you. So in a market where we have higher interest rates, typically we're going to see a lower amount of home buyers. And if we have a lower amount of home buyers in the market, typically that's going to shift us more towards a buyer's market, meaning that there's less buyers per, home for sale. What does that do for you as a buyer? It's going to give you a lot of flexibility. That's going to give your realtor a lot of negotiating power to where, we can get some of those closing costs covered. Maybe we can come down on the purchase price. It's just going to, like I said, allow you to get a better deal at the very beginning when the one time you do negotiate your deal. Because the one thing that only happens once throughout the process is the negotiation and the sale. The thing that we can change multiple times would actually be your interest rate. Why I tell a lot of my clients, not to wait and to get the house even when rates are higher is, like I just said, it being a buyer's market and you being able to get a better deal. And 2, once those rates do come down, you're going to see a lot of buyers, come off the sidelines and into the market. And that's going to drive home prices up. It's going to, you're going to even lose some of your buying power that you did gain from interest rates coming down, just from now the sellers are, there's going to be more demand. And when the product's more in demand, the price of that product's going to go up. So you're going to lose, like I said, a lot of your negotiating power. Prices are going to go up. Yes, your payment, principal and interest might be, less, but if a $200,000 house is a $200,000 house with higher rates, there's no telling what that new price of that home is going to be, which is also going to change your principal and interest. So, like I said, there's a lot to unpack with interest rates. I always come down to everybody's different. Every situation is a lot different than, the next person or, the previous person. And that's why it's so important to sit down with somebody and get this information and go over it, pertaining to, your specific needs and your specific situation.
Yes, exactly. If they're wanting to get pre-qualified with you, CJ, tell them what do they need to do, how easy is it, walk us through the process if they're wanting to get pre-qualified with you.
Yes, I would say the pre-qualification process is, at least the application part is probably the easiest part of the transaction. You're just, inputting your information, into a 1003, which is a mortgage application. With me, there's a few ways we can do it, but I'm trying to be as flexible as possible. So I have a website you can go to, and you can do everything online. I can send you that link via mobile, or you can do it on your, laptop, computer, desktop. I also will do in-person applications where we meet at the office and we do an in-person application. Also, we'll do maybe an over-the-phone application where I'll just, read the questions off the application to you over the phone and we can take it that way. I've even done applications via Zoom before, or, FaceTime, or whatever it may be. The pre-qualification process, what do we need? What does it all include? Like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a lot of personal information on finance, income, your assets, your credit. All that stuff is going to be touched on and, is going to be inquired on. As far as what documentation is needed, typically we're going to require, depending on your job, obviously, people that self-employed, contractors, there's all different kinds of jobs out there. But, for a typical hourly salary worker, we're going to require W-2s, pay stubs, bank statements, driver's license. You're in another job where maybe you don't get paid a W-2 or you get a 1099. We're going to require tax returns, basic financial documents about your personal finances, or those will be required for pre-qualification typically. To me, that's one of the most important parts of the process because, like I said, I think that's where we're going to get you, one, pre-qualified so you can go start shopping for homes. Two, we're going to sit down and actually discuss your finances and figure out what purchase price is going to work best for you. I always tell my clients, we might be able to pre-approve you for a certain amount, but maybe we want to come down to fit your specific needs on where you want to be payment wise. That is all stuff that's going to be discussed in the pre-qualification process, as well as, like I mentioned earlier, getting you pre-approved so you can go start looking at some beautiful houses with your realtor.
Exactly. CJ, tell us, how can they get in touch with you? And are you on socials?
Yes, I am. So Facebook, Instagram, I'm Mortgage Today with CJ. We're trying to be more active on there. So if you give me a follow, maybe I'll give me a little motivation to get more active on the socials. Best way to reach me is definitely going to be my cell phone. My cell phone is going to be 361-815-4245. Also, if you don't want to reach out via cell phone, my work email is going to be cfrost@neighborhoodloans. Those will probably be the two best ways to reach me. Like I said, if you want to reach out on socials as well, that would be great. But yeah.
All right, that's great. Well, thank you so much for your time today, CJ. We had a good time and you got a lot of valuable information for buyers out there. Make sure you like and share with all your friends that are even thinking of purchasing a home, and feel free to reach out to myself or CJ for us to help you with the process. And remember to give CJ a call for all your loan needs. Okay, thank you guys. Bye.
Hold me closer, tiny dancer.